Hi, welcome. I'm Jim Canham, Managing Director in Accenture's UK Health and Public Service practice. We're here today for a conversation about automation, about how automation and robotics is impacting the employee experience. First, let's do a couple of introductions.
Hi Jim, good to be here. My name's Jo Nibbs. I'm a Senior Manager in Accenture's UK Health and Public Service practice, and my focus is technology consulting.
Mark?
Hi Jim, Mark Jennings. I am Chief Operating Officer for Accenture's Health and Public Service work in Europe.
So, automation. We've been hearing a lot about automation, robotics for a number of years now, but it's my sense that the pace, the energy and the impact is really starting to pick up. Is that the case?
I think it is, Jim. I think there is a series of technologies that have reached a point of maturity now where they are being adopted, and what's really impactful is the layering of the technologies on top of each other. So enough technologies, whether it be chatbots, whether it be robots, unattended or attended, whether it be just automation and scripting, have got to a point now where actually you can do genuine transformation of the employee experience.
So Jo, we know that you work specifically in this area. You've developed a lot of these capabilities for one of our clients here in the UK. Do you want to give us kind of a few examples of what we've been doing and how those things are making an impact on the employee experience?
Of course, absolutely. Happy to. So I think where we are seeing great gains in this area, particularly with the clients I work in, are across a number of areas specific to employee experience. So first and foremost, a lot of automation and AI can be used to remove unwanted, repetitive and inefficient procedures within an organisation. And that doesn't necessarily mean remove people. What that means is remove tasks that are causing that part of the workforce to be completely inefficient and allowing those people to be redirected elsewhere to do more meaningful and impactful work that is best suited to what humans are strongest at. For example, decision making. Another really great example of how these technologies are being used to improve how an employee interacts with the services that organisation applies to them. And what I mean by that is how they interact with their technology, how they interact with each other, how they collaborate, how they interact with the services that they provide and how they request for those services. And we see all of those across the piece now completely changing as a result of the technologies.
What can we expect now that we've got to the stage where adoption is starting to become the norm? What can we see in the next 2, 3, 4 years?
I think what we're really going to see is the compound effects of various initiatives and technologies layering on top of each other. So, we typically ask for the question around what is the worst part of your job, right? Because the worst part of your job is the thing that we really want to automate and just replace. So the really repetitive, mundane actions, if we can automate those, whether it be robotics, whether it just be code, whether it be scripting, that's great, and just take that out of the way. But then you start to get into, okay, how do we help staff do more? How do we help them, do higher, more valuable tasks? And a lot of that comes through augmentation. So there's kind of automation of the simple things and augmentation of how you help people do more complicated roles. And you're starting to move through that spectrum from basic automation through to artificial intelligence and how you support people to be almost, the best that they can be. So I think we're going to see more and more of people and organisations trying to move through that spectrum.
So what we're seeing as we spend more time with clients implementing these type of technologies is that there is a strong mutuality between humans and machines in terms of their ability to combine capabilities to get a better result.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And the answer is never all one or all the other, right? There's matters of degree. And I think what is really interesting is not just technology advancements and what that means, but it's about how can we advance the organisation as a whole in terms of what the people can do and what the IT services can do and how we bring those together.
But I get the sense from listening to both of you that it's much more than the technology. It's also about change, it's also about people, it's also about momentum. Is that something that you've seen reflected as you implement some of these technologies and solutions?
100%, and what you've pulled out there is really key. So often a lot of the problems that we're looking to tackle in organisations that we work with are driven by technology. And it's the complete wrong way around to look at things. Ideally, what we should be looking at is the human issue and the human problem and the human inefficiency, and target the problem that needs to be solved, and then identify the best technology to solve that problem. And that mindset then evolves around a roadmap of progressing stages of the right technology to solve that issue at the right time, and taking the workforce along with you in that change, and designing that technology transformation around the needs of that workforce and at a pace that they can handle, and at a pace that the organisation can adapt to.
So we're not talking about by the technology in a big bang implementation. We're talking more around incremental change, incremental trial, and try and prove those benefits.
And listening to the employees and what they actually want and what are the pain points for them. And I think a lot of what's happening now is we are seeing this kind of, there's been this almost tipping point of where people's experience in work has been so much worse than their experience outside of work. And there's been this kind of almost acceptance for a while that your expectations as a consumer should be kind of left at the door when you come into the workplace, and workplaces are 5-10 years behind. And that's just not the case anymore, and people shouldn't have that expectation. So moving to a position where actually employees are engaged, where they find that IT genuinely helps them in their work and facilitates the way we expect our consumer electronics to do so, that equally can provide productivity and higher engagement at work.
So we're seeing those fears around worrying about automation and robotics somehow slightly quashed in terms of the experience that the employees are getting when these technologies arrive in their workplace to help them perform their tasks, functions, and deliver what's required of them.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the most important thing is that this is done very much with the employees. Automation is not something you ever do to people or to an organisation. And that's why my favourite question is, what is the worst part of your job? And it uncovers some really interesting things, and some things that organisations sometimes don't recognise as cost.
I think that's a really good point about how the combination of an employee focused on the tasks that they are trained and effective at, with technology to take away the worst parts of their job, doesn't just improve the experience of the employee, it actually benefits the end user, which in this case is the citizen accessing that public service.